Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. Now, people are different species, and they're diverging. They're going in different directions, right? You see, the animals in nature, they diverge. And there's people who are trying to prevent that. They're trying to make it seem like their patriarchal lines would magically be superior. Their races, their sub-races, right? Obviously, the English are very, very much involved. The Jews are very much involved. There's Greco-Roman societies that kind of link these groups together. And there's, countless millions of these people involved in this process in a very dramatic and very assertive manner. Okay, so the overwhelming amount of proof shows there's central committees that connect these groups together. When there weren't that many people in America, there was 4 to 6 million members of the second clan. And ask yourself, why is that? Okay, these groups eventually would turn into and join other groups, right? The Freemasons, the college frats, corporate groups, what have you. And, the same dogs up to their old tricks, as they say. And they go way out of their way to rape people, coerce people. One of the most underreported crimes is rape. And there's a conspiracy in society, there's a concerted effort to keep it that way. There's people who go around and say, yeah, you and I have vested interest, man, and say things like this. And it's everywhere, right? It's in the business world. It's in fraternities, which are very much involved in the business world. It's in small towns, in the Republican movements. It's in Democratic movements. It's in gangs. It's in sex, drugs, rock and roll. It's everywhere. Every culture you can think of but me, right? And so there's a bunch of rapists, and some of them have their head down, and some are more goofy about it, and they all know it's despicable. Some of them hate each other, and, they're all against me. That's why no one rallies to me, because they believe that the white man should have the privilege to get away with crimes at a higher rate, whites and Jews and LGBT, and some organize it, and I try to be above, reproach. And some, they try to stop me from saying things like that to their family's extreme disgrace and shame. And they say things like, well, everyone knows that. Well, why do you want them to get, you hold down your mother to get raped, your sister, your daughters, your girlfriend? Okay, when you date someone, do you let your homies run a train on them too while they're drunk? I mean, why would you want me to stop saying this? If everyone knows it already, what's the big deal? What are you, a little kid? You can't handle it? You don't watch R-rated movies too? I mean, people need to grow up, man. A huge part of this problem, there's a bunch of racist white people out there, and not all of them are in the class. Some look like the good cop and the good cop, bad cop psychology, and they just don't have the heart. They ain't got the guts. They ain't got the balls. So anyway, in regards to them going into these groups, they went into these groups, and they proliferated at a much higher rate. Okay, that's what this border war stuff is about, right? It's about making sure that certain white, Jew, and LGBT lines are the patriarchal lines of every group in the who's who, right? I'm not the only person on the planet that's mixed, right? Newsflash, right? But my dad is Nigerian, and his dad is Nigerian, and his dad is Nigerian, right? Igbo, what have you. We are not crypto Jews, right? Not from the patriarchal line, not from my patriarchal side. And so they don't want to give me my rightful place, and there's all kinds of problems and so on and so forth. And they've chosen to harass me in what is really the fraternity manner, which the Klan adopted, right? Nathan Bedford Forrest was of English descent. There was a lot of whites, Jews, and LGBT people in the Klan. Their stated argument was they were against Jews, but if you look at them carefully, look at the pictures, look at enough Klan pictures, you'll see the noses, you'll see the height and the shape that's consistent with people having Jewish blood. And you'll see the kind of LGBT, kind of clown, kind of porn star way that a lot of them have about them, because they were big on rape, being a rapist, right? In fact, the word racist is like the word rapist, and the Klan was big on the wordplay, right? There was there was the K words, and they say, I believe it was AYAK, right? R-U-A Klansmen, right? It was one of their code. And they had some, it's like Kia or something said Klansmen, yes I am, or something like that, okay? So they had K words and various codes, okay? And I've been going over this stuff for a long time, but there's a lot of other stuff I've been going over. So I'm a little rusty on some of it. But, they had the Grand Dragon. They had the Grand Wizard. They used to, stone black babies, feed them to animals, whip people, torture people. They're like a sadistic rapist group. And we see the sadism in today's society. We see the in society. We see the fraternity rape. It's all consistent. That's that fraternity thinking, like college frats raping people. In Yale, they were screaming no means yes, and that yes means anal. Okay, and that goes back to the white Jew and LGBT alliance, right? Why would a heterosexual guy want to do that, right? Especially now that we have condoms, because it's that LGBT influence, just like orgies and porn and so on and so forth. I hate to talk about this stuff. It's filthy. It's disgusting. It's evil, like cultists are, right? They're covered in filth. But I think you all need to really understand Isaiah 30, verse 33, really 30, 29, through 33, but we'll go to 33. I always talk about 29, how it's a martial art connections, right? The arm of the Lord, the strikes of the Lord, the blows of his arm, what have you. But in verse 33, it says Topheth, which is a play on words for top heat, right? Heat and cheat, see at, where the word cheat, and he cat, right? Cheat, these are anagrams, right? Topheth has been long prepared. It has been made ready for the king. Its fire pit has been made deep and wide with an abundance of fire and wood. The breath of the Lord, like a stream of burning sulfur, sets it ablaze. So what really pisses him off, right? Spiritus means breath, right? The spirit, the breath, the word, the actions of God, the fruit of God. So they see my presence here, and it is like a stream of burning sulfur, right? It creates the chaos, is their argument. But this is a mechanism for white supremacy. Okay, basically they say, hey, if anyone challenges white supremacy, it makes them pissed off. And when the most righteous and top martial artist ever comes, it transforms the world into hell definitively. The guilt that they feel why they persecute me, the ritual madness, Dionysus, who's a young Zeus, the military rights of Zeus, etc. Okay, really sets them off, and there's no turning back, right? There is no undoing the process. First of all, these people are already thinking that way. They dominate the white community. They dominate the Jewish community. They dominate the LGBT community. They dominate this country. These are people who have people around the world. It's left, right paradigm alike. They're communists. They're fascists. They're secret societies in all these groups, right? In all these churches, mosques, synagogues, they're the patriarchal lines. Look at them. Look at how they're similar. People who are my age, they can see that in recent years, it's like Generation Z or whatever. These people are extremely similar to each other. Far more than my generation. And that goes back to, that uniformity, formation, uniformity. And they believe that they're channeling the spirits of the devils and so on and so forth. And that's what those, the clans were wearing these white outfits, right? And they have different ways of wearing them. They have different symbols. And it has to do with, symbols triggering the mind, where we got words in the first place, right? It goes back to, the Babylonian, right? And cuneiform and hieroglyphics and so on and so forth. But these things predate those writing systems. These were symbols that were made by primitive people that eventually built on to make what they claim to be the first kind of alphabets and written languages and so on and so forth. But the symbols have been there forever and ever and ever. The spear itself is a symbol. Certain gestures with a spear. There's ways that armies are trained and they communicate without words. They communicate with movements and symbols and hand gestures. Okay. So they're bringing back the ancient kind of white supremacist kind of way that their armies that would rape had about them. They're these kind of white armies, white Jew and LGBT, right? The Jews have been white for a long time, and they've been, the white Jews, and they've been a part of that for a long time. So when we think about Jewish culture in America, no offense to anybody, it's just the facts. We see that, there's a reason why anti-Semite people say blame the Jews, right? Because there's a big question mark. Who are the Jews, right? They if you're not a Jew, no, I'm not a Jew. I don't go to, a synagogue. You kind of don't know that much about it, right? And when you see a Jew, someone says, when I was growing up, they say, hey, by the way, I'm a Jew. And you wouldn't know that. You say, oh, you're a Jew. Okay, that's why. I get it, And, okay, now you see that they had a white culture. And that's why you didn't know that they were a Jew, okay? Because they have shared ancestors, shared cultural values with the white man, okay? And, it's the kind of the good cop, bad cop psychology, where the Jews tend to be on the left a little bit more in popular culture, and they are seen as rabble rousers, but they're in both sides, right? It's the white Jew and LGBT community, okay? These people have common ancestors, common patriarchal lines. Some trace their roots to Zeus and Jupiter and Baal, who are each other's counterparts, to Set in Egypt. That's really what's going on here, okay? And that's why the Bible says Satan is the god of the world, and Set and Zeus are like the main forms of Satan in the ancient world, okay? And Jupiter in Rome. Now again, Okay, I don't care if you're related to fucking, Santa Claus. I don't care, right? I judge someone by the content of the character. But this is what's going on. And that's why no one obeys God through me. A huge reason has to do with breeding, right? When you've been breeding to follow cults for thousands of years, right? Some of these people before Sumer, right? Okay, before the early African civilizations that far predate Sumer, okay? They've been following cults, and it's an unbroken continuity. It just kind of morphed over time. And so they're not inclined to follow moral precision. They're inclined to follow the rapist. The rape spirit is familiar. In fact, Serapis, their false image of Christ, is a play on words for rapes is, or see rape. Now, a lot of people say, we want you to be quiet, want you to be quiet. First of all, everyone looks around, everywhere they go, they see evil people. Why do you want me to be quiet? Okay, the world is going to hell. It doesn't matter if I scream and yell at the top of my lungs in front of the biggest crowd of people in human history. It doesn't matter. Okay, the problem isn't that I'm speaking. The problem is that you're not rallying to me. Because when you look at what it's saying in Isaiah 30, it's saying if you don't obey Christ, you're all going to suffer to the extreme. Your offspring are going to suffer. You're going to eat the flesh of your offspring. It's a continuity of the message from Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Okay, you see in Isaiah, you see in the New Testament, you see in Revelation. Okay, you say if you don't obey Christ, the only way to turn back this process, okay, simple answer, you can't stop the process, okay? The only way to turn back the process for you and whoever's with you who obeys God through me is to obey God through me, okay? The water of God, I am the gate, I am the exit. This is hell. That's how they're going to play this. You're not doing your families any favor by trying to get me to be quiet instead of obeying God through me. I didn't know a single person of the 1 million people who died during the pandemic, okay? Why is that? They were all people who followed Set. The devil betrays you historically, in popular culture, in the Bible, in the movies, in the comics, you name it. It's everywhere. It's hidden in plain view. The answer is the solution. The soul you shun. And the ons, where on is Heliopolis, Ra is called center, this called center of God. It's even in the Bible in Genesis 41:45, where it says that Joseph married Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, the high priest of On. And God didn't punish him for it. Because Ra, before Jews had a Jewish religion, Ra meant God in Egypt. Later on, the Hebrews, the Jews, wrote it into their language, because they came later. Their language, it does not predate Africa. It does not predate ancient Egypt and the people before ancient Egypt. Some of the oldest people in the world lived in Egypt, because Ethiopia, as far as anyone knows, is the oldest, is where mankind started. It's not far from Egypt. Okay, so they had to go through there to get to the other places. So some of the oldest tribes in the world were in Egypt. So Ra meaning God predates Ra meaning evil in Hebrew. And in Isaiah it says, or something like that, it says, woe to you who call good evil and evil good. Okay, so they're calling God, right? It's a play on words for good, G-O-D and G-O-O-D, evil. Okay, just like the Klan, where they had a grand dragon and a grand wizard. They're doing illusion. And so it is with the fraternities and the checkered floor and the pillars and the architecture and the symbols, right? It's magic, like King Solomon, right? And the demons and the symbols he used to use, the symbols and sigils and occult stuff. That's sorcery, which is forbidden by God. Read Revelation. So it's pretty straightforward. I didn't want to make this video this long. I was going to make it in just a couple minutes, So let me just kind of end it there. It's going to be a pain in the ass to upload this thing, and I have to go down the road and expose me more to the enemy and so on and so forth. But I'm going to keep pushing through, because I'm standing 10 toes firm for God. And that's what you're supposed to do. I don't know what you people are doing, but I'm doing what you're supposed to do.